How's it going, everybody? Did everybody have a good time last night at the show? Checked out some great music? My name is Eugene Jamin Giersbach. I own a big garden store down in Southern Oregon called Rogue Farmers, hydroponic organic garden store. Thank you. It was right around this time, actually, last year, I spoke to my landlord, and he's a really powerful guy, Steve Rouse, does a lot for the community down there, a real activist, old hippie. And I asked him if I could open a dispensary in his an old warehouse that I was renting from him in the same building. And he said, yeah, go for it. You know, didn't raise my rent, just gave me a ton of support. And we cleared out all these pallets of dirt and amendments and, you know, everything you see in a grocery store, and started this sort of mad dash to build out a big dispensary in there. You know, it was about 45 days it took us, and we opened Talent Health Club there in Talent, Oregon, THC for short, and had a lot of support from the community. You know, I own a lot of different companies. I have a computer background. I own Advanced Systems and Professionals, cannabis consulting and technology firm. And during actually this conference, this is a launch of our new company, High Grade Harvest. I have 2 business partners, really amazing, powerful industry people, Oregon boys. And we're basically a production and an extract company that we're launching right here. And I really want to talk about preparing for Measure 91 and how it's going to affect our gardens. The title of my talk is Don't Be Afraid to Grow. How many of you out there are gardeners? I want to see some hands up in the air. All right. So how many of you are preparing to go recreational with your gardens? That's actually a pretty good number right there. Yeah, awesome. So you're probably wondering what attracted me to Southern Oregon, places like Applegate, Williams, Rogue Valley, and maybe I missed a few. You're probably thinking, why should I give a fuck about Southern Oregon? Well, it has a lot to do about cannabis. Southern Oregon has long, hot, dry summers, unlike other places in Oregon. With its Mediterranean climate, Southern Oregon has one of the best cannabis growing environments in the world. Similar to Northern California, but rather than long, narrow valleys, it has wide alluvial plains, valleys. It's perfect for growing cannabis. Another great thing about Southern Oregon is there's a lot of different microclimates. This allows cannabis to grow in many unique and distinct ways. Different traits and flavors will exhibit themselves from one side of the valley to the other. The French had a term for this they used. It was called terroir. In 2007, when I first moved to the Applegate, my wife and me each got our card so we could grow our total of 12 plants. We were so paranoid back then. I decided to grow in a swimming pool, and I covered it with a piece of Agrabah film that basically blocked out the neighbor's visibility and being able to see my garden. Something they use in agricultural crops, and it still lets the light in. I had an amazing plant that I was growing that was called the lemon. It's not as strong as the OG Kush, but it smelled and tasted like fresh squeezed lemons. It's amazing. I really miss that one. Wish I never got rid of it. It was awesome that day. My friend showed up with 14 lemon plants. He was a very experienced grower. These girls were beautiful, and my friend recommended that I put them straight out. Rather than put them straight outdoors, I should harden them off a bit, put them under some dappled light. So I found a place under my porch. I set them all up there. It was right next to my hot tub, and I had them all arranged. They were beautiful. I started to fill my hot tub up. It was a little low on water, and it started to get a little flooded, so I was just thinking I would bail out some of this hot water, and I was really careful where I dumped it. But I didn't realize I was dumping it on a nest of bees, and all of a sudden the bees came flying out of the ground, and I went flying backwards. I was getting stung all over, and I landed right there on my babies and just completely flattened 2 of them, broke the stems in half, and looked around. They were dead, and I was all stung up. I was like, fuck. The next day when I was moving my remaining babies down in a freshly prepared swimming pool to grow in, I thought to myself, looking around, I only have 12 babies left, and I realized I'm in full compliance now. Today in Oregon's medical marijuana program, you're limited to grow 6 mature plants, 24 per person. These days, many medical marijuana growers are growing trees. Indoor gardeners don't grow little babies, they grow quarter, half-pound monsters. Outdoor growers are using 15, 20-foot spacing and up to 1,000-gallon smart pots. People put plants out early and earlier using lights to trick them into not flowering. It's like a competition these days, who can grow the largest plant. Even security measures these days are simpler. There are no seed-to-sale systems in place. Honestly, life is pretty simple for the medical marijuana grower. One technique to increase yield and decrease plant count, it utilizes vertical lighting. While some gardeners work with per gram measurements per watt, I prefer to look at actual per gram per plant measurements. Vertical lighting is where you take your lights, hang them in a checkerboard configuration using drop bulbs and no hoods. When you grow your plants with 3,000 to 4,000 watts around each one, it's amazing how fast they grow. Growing monster trees with hydro buckets really push the limits even further with 10 plus gallons of water per site. It's amazing the growth you see. Last November, voters passed Measure 91. It allowed cannabis to be sold to adults recreationally. It's also created a system for commercial growers to profit. Gone are the reimbursement language. We can now sell marijuana commercially. Measure 91 has a timeline. Adults are allowed to grow 4 plants per household in 2016. Recreational dispensaries are coming online, and we're going to be able to apply for a commercial grow license. Big changes are underway. Measure 91 commercial grow sites are going to be based on canopy size, not on plant count anymore. It's going to completely change our strategies. You know, we're going to be able to grow on a half acre. We don't really have that figured out yet, but it's going to be a large area. 50,000 square foot warehouses are a potential. The states are implementing new tracking requirements, safety, security measures. Your commercial grow is going to have to be run like a business and efficiently as possible. To compete in this highly competitive market, there are a lot we're going to have to learn from other states with large warehouses, light depth operations. But behind the curtains, a lot of that information already exists in Oregon. Let's face it, we are growing a high dollar crop, one with big changes underway, and there's tracking systems coming in. Commonly referred to as seed-to-sale systems. Having Big Brother with an eye on you is bound to make anyone nervous, yet I think seed-to-sale systems are something we should embrace as commercial growers. On one hand, these tools are excellent to help us learn how to be more productive and safe. Most successful businesses are using some form of reporting. It helps them track their success, their failures. On the other hand, wouldn't you like to keep an eye on your products, your workers? You could lose your prize genetics or worse. Having cameras might not be such a bad idea after all. Seed-to-sale systems include cultivation, harvesting, packaging, inventory, sales, tax, compliance, security. There's a ton of other things. These systems are excellent tools for our new commercial business for cultivation. They could really make our lives a hell of a lot easier.